welcome Ronald Port to Supply Chain 600 Seconds. You are the Chief Commercial Officer at DSV Solutions. And I will actually ask you to introduce yourself shortly in the beginning here, please.
Okay. Like I said, Ronald Port, working for the company DSV since 2007 in multiple roles. I started in Holland. I had the opportunity in 2016 to move to the US and lead the North American sales team up to the end of 2019 when I took my global role as, like you said, Chief Commercial Officer for DSV Solutions.
Exciting. And DSV Solutions has been and is a fast-growing transport and logistic company, one of the largest actually. Can you define kind of DSV Solutions' role in this large company?
Yeah, sure. DSV is a big company, as you said. And the funny thing is, when I joined in 2007, the whole company had employed about 6,000 people. And honestly, I was a bit concerned about, that's a big company. Do I want to work for that big company? And now we have about 77,000 people. The organization is organized into RNC, DSV RNC, clearly freight forwarding, DSV road transport, and DSV Solutions, which takes care of the contract logistics activities. So that was DSV Solutions is about. We have, some numbering. We have 27,000 people. We have more than 500 locations and more than 7.5 million square meters under our control.
Fantastic. We're going to talk about robotics and automation in the warehouse today. But Ronna, when you explain and when you describe DSV like this, I have to ask you, what are the, I know that you may have made and that you make a lot of acquisitions all the time, but what's really the success behind DSV? So pressing this.
The success, I would say, can best be summarized by local empowerment, right? We run our operations. If you run a site or you run a truck or you run a country, or in my case, run a commercial department, you run it as if it is your own. And you put all your energy and all your belief in it. And I think this is one of the critical elements for DSV being so successful. And what is also unique is that for the time I was at DSV, this DNA is still there. And I think this is really remarkable. Even though we have acquired quite some companies during the last few years, we still are able to keep this DNA, run the business as if it is your own, and put your maximum effort in there.
It's another topic, but to keep the DNA, to kind of transmit the culture is really an extremely interesting subject, I think. Okay, let's talk about automation and robotics. Recently, you decided to invest in 20 automated AutoStore warehouses from Element Logic, which also is a fantastic number here. Can you tell us about the purpose and the background for doing this significant investment?
Of course, there's different reasons, right? Of course, it's not a surprise that the labor shortage is one reason, right? And not only the labor shortage, but especially the opportunity for us to scale up and scale down e-commerce. Like, I don't have to talk about Black Friday and what have you, but it's already a challenge to have a base team in an operation, but to scale up and then have, your team X3, X4, this is really a challenge in a lot of areas, especially in Western Europe and in North America. And one of the opportunities to counter that is automation, because upscaling with an automated solution is much easier. Of course, the downside is that in the old way of thinking, the old approach was, then, dear customer, you can give me a 10-year commitment. You need to tell me what your order profile will be today, tomorrow, and within 10 years. So I will build the right type of automation for you.
Well, has the labor shortage, is that the main driving force for this? Because many companies have been reluctant to automate. Many of the 3PLs and so on have been reluctant to automate in the past. Or is it that if you don't do it, your customers will?
No, I don't think that's. I think the reason is more we want to grow. Well, the e-commerce market is growing, right? There's no discussion about that. We want a bigger share of wallet, right, in e-com. So the only way, given the labor shortage, is to automate. And like I said, the old traditional way of automating is going to a customer, having a dedicated solution, which asks for a lot of commitment and a lot of knowledge from the customer. But what if you, as a customer, don't want to give that commitment? Or what if you simply don't have the visibility of how your customer will behave 10 years from now, 5 years from now? That's how we came up with the solution where we say, like, wait a second, we invest big time in physical buildings. We invest in racking, in forklift trucks. Why not automation? If we can find, let's say, common automation that might not be, in a very big automated facility where automation is fully engineered towards the customer, it fits 100%. What if we find automation that maybe fits 80 or 90%, but still delivers great advantages to the supply chain of the customer? But we invest, we take the risk, we put the installation there, and it's for the customers to use at that moment in time. And maybe in 2 years from now, it will no longer fit. Maybe in 3 years from now, they indeed go to this 30,000 square meter fully dedicated solution. Fantastic. But for now, we have the installation, it's public, you can use it, and you pay as you use. That was the idea. And then we went and searched for the right type of automation fitting that initiative. That was AutoStore. And then it was a short step from AutoStore to Element, as we think that was the most, let's say, flexible, the best part that we can identify to meet our requirements.
And I've read that these warehouses that you build, they are in some way interconnected, so that you can kind of choose or automatically choose the best location and so on. Can you describe how this works?
Yeah, sure. As a starting point, whenever we build these large campuses, so maybe one step back, what we are doing, we putting big buildings, big warehouses, what we call multi-user campuses throughout the world, right, on so-called logistics hotspots. And within these warehouses, we apply the same WMS throughout the globe. And of course, if you again look at e-commerce, we see our customers wanting to be closer to the consumer. But how could you do that? Because suddenly, if you let's say put your inventory on different points in the supply chain, you don't have the volume anymore to automate, to optimize. And this is where we say, if we have a system already using the same IT technology, if we apply the system and enable the customer to put some stock in Spain, from a European perspective, some stock in Spain for today, and it can actually, if you see the demand in Italy going up, let's move it to Italy. That is something what you can only do if you have one common IT system, and that's what this, let's say, network of AutoStores can actually do. So even though the market is changing, even though you could have your assortment being allocated in different warehouses, from a physical perspective, we make it really easy, because it's the same system, it's the same technology, so very easy for the customers to almost switch on and switch off.
Yeah, that's one obvious benefit then for your customers. What are the other benefits? I know that you talk about things like flexibility and also costs, of course. Can you describe a little bit more what to gain from this, from the customer?
Of course. Well, I have to repeat what you already said, right? Flexibility is a key element, and the flexibility also in terms of upscaling and downscaling. Like I said, if you have a typical crew of about 45 people, let's say in a warehouse environment, and you want to prepare for Black Friday, you might have to go to 200 people, 150, 200 people. It is simply impossible to do. With an installation like AutoStore, if you, let's say, run a 10-hour shift, go to 20 hours at the weekend, and you basically only need the core crew to operate that AutoStore. So in terms of scaling up again and scaling down, it's much easier. And also using the technology, it is really easy, right? You can take people from other operations, have a very short learning process, and make them productive again within hours, so to speak. Where in other roles and functions, especially in picking, it might require a little bit longer for people to be really productive and reliable.
Yeah.
Now, it's also fair to say, it's also fair to say that AutoStore is the solution for picking, right? And of course, picking is not the only time-consuming element in a warehouse. So next to that, we're also looking at optimizing packing. We're also looking to have the same approach like automation pay-as-you-use for pallet-based storage, right? So it starts with AutoStore, but it doesn't end with AutoStore, so to speak.
One of my favorite questions is I have to ask it is when will the warehouse be totally automated? Because it sounds as if you have a vision when the manual work is not that important anymore.
That's also a question. It's a very good question, by the way. And it's also a question that we tend to take very seriously when introducing automation to our warehouses, right? It is not to replace the people working in the warehouse. It is there to ensure that we can accommodate growth because there's simply not people enough to accommodate the growth. But there will also always be manual work, right? And the manual work will maybe shift, right? Rather than to do repetitive basic tasks like picking will become, to kitting, country, making something country specific, manufacturing. We didn't talk about returns yet, but returns in e-commerce, of course, is an enormous flow. What are these same people, these people that are now picking orders? What if they can be allocated to refurbishing inbound shipments, returns? You know, this is a field where who knows what will happen in 50 years from now, but where you need people. You need people to judge the return, the quality of the return. You need someone to count the stitches in the shirt, all kind of stuff that needs to take place. So again, this is not about replacing human capital. This is about using human capital where it's best used, rather to use them for simple repetitive tasks that a machine could do.
Yeah. I think your view is quite common actually. But what do you, so the totally autonomous warehouse, that is something that is more of a science fiction perhaps.
Yes. Well, science fiction, my point with science fiction is that I have an issue with understanding that it will ever happen. So I'm a little bit, more positive. It might happen somewhere. It might happen for a very specific environment, but it's a long way from now.
Now you have already started with some centers that are operational with the AutoStore installments. As I understood it, this wasn't totally updated information, but you have it in Denmark, Norway, Finland, the Netherlands, of course, and shortly also in the UK, Germany, Spain, Sweden, here in Stockholm, where I am. And then in the further on, you will expand this globally, as I understand it.
Yes, correct. After this initial, we will two things. One, we will add some more installations in the country you already named, right? Germany is so big, UK is so big, Holland is so big. Big from a logistics perspective, right? Don't get me wrong. Holland is a small country that it warrants for more AutoStores. The same thing with Spain, by the way. So that's one path, and the globalization is the other path with Singapore, California, and also the east coast of the US being one of the areas we're looking at. Absolutely.
And the vision for the future, when is it fulfilled? Is it a continuous process that will go on for many years, or how do you see the vision in five years, for instance?
A good question. When the fulfillment, we brand this AutoStore as the Fulfilment Factory, right? A very efficient run environment where we can process the order. So your question is, when will the Fulfillment Factory be fulfilled? I don't think there's an end to it. Like I said, we started this journey with optimizing the picking, and now we're looking at adding the robot. We're adding pack lines. We have a automated pallet-based picking operation in Norway, which we want to elevate to a global standard as well. I think the journey has just started. And actually, to be fairly honest, I would not know where it ends, because I think there's a real need, right? If you are a Fortune 500 company, you can actually afford automated warehouses. But there's tons of companies below that that actually could benefit from what we call the pay-as-you-use automated solution. Um, the market is almost like endless. Even, and this is actually quite interesting, where in the old days, markets with a lower salary cost typically would not be that interesting to automate. But if you consider the other advantages like the scalability, the accuracy of this machinery, it actually also becomes interesting for countries with a lower cost level, which is another, let's say, boundary which we thought was there for automation, but as we learn, is not really there. Also, these regions benefit from this solution.
Okay. Why do you think that AutoStore has become such a popular solution in e-commerce, but also in the 3PL business? We can see several of your colleagues in the business that have chosen the same.
I think there's a few reasons where I think affordability, of course, they're too expensive. No, that's a joke. But it's an affordable solution. The investment is relatively low. The second thing, it's reliable technology, right? We have such an installation up and running in a few weeks. And again, an automated solution up and running in a few weeks. Of course, you have to prepare the area. I get that. But the actual installation takes very little time to set up. It's very modular. So again, looking into the future is not that easy. So it might be something, and we see that in every AutoStore we build, every fulfillment factory, before it's even finished, we already want an extension, which is simple, right? You add more ports, you add more ports, you add more robots, you add more robots, you add more grid, you add more grid, which I think is one of the crucial elements, right? So it is modular, affordable, and proven technology. I think that is the, let's say, the ingredients for the winning strategy of Element. Absolutely.
What you describe now is actually a pattern, regardless of what vendor you have chosen. I hear this from many companies. And talking about vendor, why did you choose Element Logic for this?
I was personally not involved in the actual selection of the vendors, right? So I have to say, but they have proven to be the most flexible and reliable company. To be honest, when we started this journey, we were also not sure about the success of it, how fast do we want to go, and so forth. It has proven to be a success. That's great, but we have found Element and being really helping us get through the process and being flexible in our needs. So up to now, proven to be a very reliable, not a vendor. I would say that Element truly is a partner to DSV, beyond being a simple basic vendor. Absolutely.
Sounds very good, and they will be happy to hear this.
Exactly. This is where I get my $25, right?
Thank you so much, Ronald Port, for a nice discussion about automation in the warehouse.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you very much.